A serial spree killer is caught after having 8 prior arrests across 4 different states because of an absolute abysmal judicial system. I also give a thumbs down to Spirit Airlines for their bankruptcy plans. I then give a thumbs up to ESPN for taking in the Inside the NBA team. And I give a candid review of the Malice in the Palace that took place 20 years ago today. All here on the Bullet today, so let's do it. The mainstream news is so corrupt.
This is unbelievable.
This is wild.
No one is talking about this.
The shootings are just out of control right now.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
A serial killer has been caught after a stabbing spree in Manhattan after taking the lives of 2 men and 1 woman. 51-year-old Ramon Rivera was charged on 3 counts of first-degree murder after he was found with blood on his clothes and is believed to also have been homeless. Rivera traveled to different points throughout New York City and just randomly stabbed his 3 victims to death, while an Uber driver witnessed the final attack and followed Rivera until police arrived. Rivera is said to have mental health issues, which surveillance footage showing him put on a hoodie, skull cap, and gloves while pulling out a knife and hiding it in his shirt prior to the attacks does seem to counter this narrative. This is an example, though, of a systemic failure at an abysmal level here, and not surprising that this type of failure happened in New York City. Rivera had 8 prior arrests across New York, Florida, New Jersey, and in Ohio. Rivera was released from jail last month on October 17th after serving time for burglary and assault convictions, in which he has spent most of this past year alone behind bars. Back in late 2023, Rivera was arrested on the same day he was released from jail, stemming from a burglary at a store in Tribeca, and Manhattan prosecutors thought it'd be a good idea to push for bail, and a judge then sentenced him on non-monetary conditions. So why was this guy on the street? If he had mental health issues, then why did he dress up exactly how a serial killer would dress up, with a hood, gloves, and skull cap, trying to evade police like he's a real player with 6 stars in the video game Grand Theft Auto? This clear example of a system absolutely failing its own citizens time and time again is what is going to lead to people to further have distrust in the system, as they should. This will lead to people embracing the very harsh penalties for criminals, which the system has tried to steer away from over the past few decades. Penalties that people have said are too cruel and go way overboard with over-sentencing. Example here is the famous 3 strikes you're out rule, which is salivating to be popular again. This dates back to the Department of Justice's anti-violence strategy back in 1952, which paved the way for the people automatically sentenced to 25 years to life for their 3rd felony. You can ask Jerry Williams how this went, as in 1995, he was 27 years old when he stole a slice of pizza in California and was sentenced to 25 years in prison for it, as he had 5 prior felony convictions. So this issue really is just going to go even further, and people are going to ask for harsher, deeper penalties at this point for people, because the already penalties that are in the system already are just not being enforced. So we don't need tougher, stricter penalties. We need the current penalties to be enforced, which are being blatantly ignored right now for whatever reason. Now over to thumbs up and thumbs down here. We stay right here in the US for a huge thumbs up.
Thumbs up! Average Joes can play!
The sports world's shaky hand can now come to a calm demeanor, as thumbs up to ESPN and ABC, as they now have taken over the rights to possibly the best sports broadcast show in all of sports. Ernie Johnson, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kenny Smith talk basketball, pop culture, and whatever else is on their minds, which everybody just loves, as it's one of the only raw and honest shows out there right now. TNT Sports lost its longtime broadcasting rights to broadcast NBA games, which left the show up for grabs. The only concern here is obviously if ABC News or ESPN tries to put a ceiling on the vibrant conversations of the lineup, which Wouldn't surprise anybody knowing the standards of the networks, but I doubt Charles and the crew would even do the show if they had a ceiling on them. So happy to know that the team is no longer on life support in the commentator world. And now, big ol' thumbs down to Spirit Airlines here going bankrupt. Spirit Airlines, the budget airline that has gone viral over the years for passengers feeling the need to bring on boxing gloves and bulletproof vests, has announced its Chapter 11 bankruptcy plans. The nation's 7th largest carrier actually tried merging with JetBlue back in January of this year to save itself, but a few corrupt state attorneys, a federal judge, and the Department of Justice sued to stop it and succeeded. The budget carrier deserves this, though, as it has absolutely swayed away from its original business model, where you used to be able to obtain a $40 or $50 domestic flight anywhere, and obviously getting eviscerated with fees on luggage and seat choices, but a $40 flight is a $40 flight if you plan it well. Then over the years, those $40 flights became $100, $100 became $150, and now people would rather go with a normal airline where you don't need to pack your Kevlar and sparring kit. Now, sometimes we don't realize how quickly time has passed, which is why I bring you to this day in history.
Which specifies the unconditional surrender of Japan.
The president has been shot.
This day, 20 years ago, the malice at the palace took place right dead center in where else but Detroit City. I'm getting all this directly from the History Channel, by the way, if anyone was wondering, this did make the History Channel. With 45.9 seconds left on the clock in the fourth quarter, and Indiana ahead beating the Pistons 97-82, Ron Artest fouled Detroit's Ben Wallace, who then shoved Ron Artest, leading players and coaches from both teams to confront each other on the court. To calm himself, Artest then lay on top of the scorer's table during the chaos. Then a fan threw a cup of beer at Artest, landing right on top of him. Artest then thought it would be a great idea to run into the crowd, followed by his teammate Steven Jackson, a teammate known for his reservations, leading to a chaotic scene. Artest and the Pacers' Jermaine O'Neal, a player also known for his calmness, swung at fans who then rushed at the court to him. The remaining 45.9 seconds of the game were never played. Back in the locker room, though, with maybe the most ignorant statement in all of human history was made by Ron Artest. Artest looked at his teammate Steven Jackson and actually asked him, "Hey, Jack, you think we gonna get in trouble for this?" And Jamal Tinsley, another teammate of Artest on the Pacers, fell out of his chair laughing. "Are you serious, bro? Trouble? Ron, we'd be lucky if we have a freaking job." Artest was suspended for the remainder of the season, which was 73 games out of a season that has a total of 82 games. Now, in a romantic twist here, Artest did end up befriending the man who threw the cup of beer at him. Now, a lot of times covering the news can get nasty. You're talking about a lot of bad things. There are still a lot of good things out there, though. So every news show, I will ensure we talk about some very good news. So good news, here we go. Meet Ben Berkeley, an out-of-work English filmmaker who lost all of his work prospects as a freelance filmmaker whose brother recently took over a farm. And he had asked Ben if he wanted to live in the static trailer that came with it. Teaching himself through YouTube, $13,000 in costs, and a lot of positivity, Ben turned this shack into his own home, doing everything himself outside of the plumbing and electricity. "Quote unquote, I had zero experience in building and DIY, but there was an opportunity to do it up and live it in it, so I jumped in head first. He told the English news outlet SWNS. He continued, everything we learned was through YouTube. It was really amazing and an empowering experience. It is a very simple lifestyle, which I think we have lost, he said. Now, simple story, but Ben references two components here to take away from. Describing the experience as empowering, which when you build something from nothing can give you confidence you never believed you could have had, and now living in simplicity, which is a lifestyle that brings calmness and peace. That is a road you'll never want to turn off of if you've ever experienced it before. So kudos to Ben. Now, your daily news podcast, The Bullock, is out Tuesday through Thursday at 5 p.m. I will be back here tomorrow evening with another Bullock for your world news stories, and I will see you then.
News and factual material are deeply researched to confirming the validity of multiple sources by the broader media landscape across the global sector and the digital world. All statements are a combination of primary and secondary research components geared towards providing the only news show in video and podcast form that provides a clear understanding of important world issues that are being left out by the completely biased and politically driven global media machine. Thank you for listening.